When people can choose peace over and above validation, then I think the world will be a much more loving place. But far too often, people are searching for something that gives them power. But I'm not someone that wants power. I'm not someone that wants clicks. I'm not someone that wants views. However, what I do want is influence. I think people that have influence are far more susceptible and far more initiated into the natures of life than most people that strive for power. Now, with that being said, I do think that I also can consider myself, if I'm going to label myself anything, which I don't like doing, but if I'm going to label myself anything, it's going to be a stoic, spiritual rebel of love, or in some sense, a spiritual gangster. Okay, not a spiritual gangster, but you guys get the point. It's just about being something different. It's about being something that makes the world a better place. And when you can choose peace above any other option that is before you, you're going to have a fulfilling life. And that's really what this life is about. This life is about understanding and increasing in growth and in nature in general. Understanding our own nature and our own psychology is going to be the key to determine a variety of factors that will either end civilization or that will build people up and create something better. But right now, I don't want to say that we can or we should enjoy the decline and the plague, the psychological plague that is infested in our Western society. But it seems as though we have no choice but to live as righteously as possible. And I am someone that, yes, I've made mistakes in the past. I've been burned in the past. Burned bad. But that does not mean that I cannot make better decisions now. And I cannot learn from those decisions that I made that were not so good decisions. But I also have to pay attention to my time and place in my physical body. My physical body as a human being is 26 years old. And so as a male, I still have plenty of time to sort myself out and obtain as much resources and influence as I can. But I can also only do so much because I felt for a long time in my life that I had internal confidence. I didn't want to believe in myself in that confidence though, because I come from a very traumatic background, and I come from a very traumatized background as well. And it took me years and years and years to just get myself to the point to where I'm at now. And I understand that people have had it worse, but the difference between men and women going through trauma is that if men can recover from trauma, they become far more attractive. And I'm not saying women aren't attractive if they can overcome trauma. I think you should still overcome trauma, whoever you are. But the time that it takes to overcome trauma for women can be kind of damaging to some ways in regards to their fertility and their beauty aspect, because that really is the function of a woman, right? Is to give life to the next generation. We wouldn't be here without women anyway. And likewise, we wouldn't have the world that we do if men didn't build it the way that they did. So this is a two-way street, and this is a give and take situation. Something I've learned is that you should never, ever, ever listen to sellouts. And how do you know if somebody's a sellout? You know somebody's a sellout by the way that they talk to you. Are they talking down on you? Or are they idolizing you as if you were a god? Either one, I don't want to be around. I don't want to be around somebody that treats me as a god, and I don't want to be around anybody that's talking like to me as if I'm below them. I want respect. And I think people, if people chose respect and self-respect at that, and self-discipline, more so than anything else really, any kind of validation-seeking behavior, attention-seeking behavior, I think the world would be a much better place. Because I was taught, wrongfully so, to seek codependent relationships. Now, of course, it wasn't spoken to me as in such a way, but that was the message that I got, was that you don't deserve to be who you are. And that's the worst kind of message anybody can receive, and that anyone can give as well in some instances. Actually, in most instances, because if you are not being yourself, who are you? And are you really living your life? You know, I was going out shopping for some new clothes today, and just kind of shopping and looking around, trying to reorganize my wardrobe, trying to get rid of some things, trying to get, something more fresh as well. And when I was out there, I looked around at the people, and it was just so clear. Like, I wasn't looking down on anybody at all, and I wasn't looking up to anybody at all. It was just that it was as if I was on an internal mountain that was overseeing the vast civilization before me so clearly, ever so clearly. And so spiritually, it was like I was just seeing the Matrix for what it really was. And I was seeing the grand scale of the Matrix and what it's doing to people. And I remembered what it was like to be in the Matrix. It was so exhausting and so anxiety-ridden and so depressing. And yet the machine convinces you that you need this depression and you need this anxiety and you need this fear in order to be true to who you are. And yet you still don't feel fulfilled when you do the things that the machine is telling you. And I looked at these people that were obviously living above their means. And I thought to myself, if these people are living above their means, then they get what they deserve. Why do I need to feel any kind of empathy for them? If they know they don't have the means, and yet they're putting themselves in a position to where they're going to lose, that is not something that I need to be compassionate about. And when I had this feeling and this realization, this discernment, it was like there was something in my heart that was being released. It was like this deep, deep internal detachment to the world. And I was like lifted up in my spirit, more so than usual, because when I'm walking around, like, I always feel like I'm 2 inches above ground in some ways. And when I walk, it's like I imagine myself kissing the earth, which I know is kind of a weird thing to do, but that's kind of the imagery that I get. Is I try to be as, I wouldn't say gallant, but graceful as possible when I walk. And even when I'm just walking, doing things in the gym as well, like I try to be graceful. I try to remember the foundations of lifting weights or anything like that. And so it keeps you grounded, right? Even though you feel this internal lifting of the spirit. But when I saw these things out and about today, I just realized that a lot of these people are choosing the validation of the people around them that probably don't give a shit as much about them as they think they do over their internal peace. And I didn't feel sorry for them, and I didn't necessarily feel pity. It was just this clarity of mind that was just like, wow, that is what it is. And there was this acceptance to it. And I really don't mind being the person that doesn't fit in anymore. I really don't mind being that person that doesn't really go with the crowd. It used to bother me because I always wanted to be accepted. And we, as social creatures, we want to be accepted by our peers and by everybody like that. But what I would rather do is be respected by my peers. And I would say that to some degree, I've achieved that, which I'm very grateful for, and I'm much appreciated for, and the praise goes to God. So when I feel these things and when I see these things, I don't necessarily feel bad. I don't necessarily feel good. It's not like I'm empty either. It's just that I am completely at peace with what is happening around me. And I know that my physical body and everybody else here that I'm seeing, this isn't the end for us. This is not our final form. How could it be? How could it be? This consciousness that we have, it's like when you go to pick up your glass of water, and when you go to drink your water, obviously you exist in the material world, but things are happening out of it, out of you, out of your experience. And it's almost like it comes from this internal mysterious, I wouldn't say void, but this, because it's not a void per se. It's not like there's something empty. There's something really full there. It's just this nuclear light, this nuclear internal light that gives you this excellent feeling of joy. And it's almost like that light is air. And you can sense this around certain people sometimes. When you know you're around a good person, you can just feel like there's this lightness of air around you. You don't have to try to be anything, really. You don't have to try to do certain things. But I have noticed this, that when I'm around people that are, I don't want to say losers, because that's kind of, like, that's not what I'm not saying they're losers per se. They are behaving in such a way that makes them lose. Let's say that. Those are the kinds of people that when I'm around them, it's like my internal guard dog gets on full alert. And my more aggressive side comes out. And I don't always like it, but I also know that it's there, and I like the fact that I know that it's there. It's like No, this is my shit, not your shit. Get your own fucking shit. And it's like, there's this really deep protective mentality that happens. And this is the territorial thing as well, but this happens a lot with me around people that are not striving for something more for some reason. It's just like their energy really brings out a darker side of you, right? And it's the same thing with the good people, though. They bring out this great joy around you. When I'm around very feminine women, when I'm around truly feminine women, which I've only met like maybe 15 truly feminine women in my life, but I know for a fact when I've been around those truly feminine women, my creativity is so much higher. There's so much more of a relaxed interaction between us. I don't really have to try to be masculine. It just happens naturally. And there's this exchange of creative flow that happens that is so pure and that it's so good. Whereas the hundreds and hundreds of women that I've met besides them that are fairly more masculine, it's like I have to really assert myself. And because it's like they've been talking down to men their whole life. It's like they think that they're royalty talking down to men, and it's like, you're not even you're average, bitch. Like, who do you think you are? And who the fuck do you think you're talking to? And it's just insane to me to think that these average women treat themselves as quote unquote queens. But then you have the truly feminine women that are of a higher status, but they treat you so much better. And it feels so good. And not all of the feminine women that I've met have been higher status, quote unquote, or that have had a lot of influence. But they've definitely had a more graceful presence and a more pure presence. And the men that I have met that are more overt and more overtly narcissistic, they're very controlling in the sense that they're not trying to help you for your own good. They're trying to dictate how they think that you need to behave in accordance to their sets of beliefs that may or may not contradict the realities of the situation. And it's very confusing because they will gaslight you and they will try to manipulate you. Men can be just as manipulative as women, but men are more manipulative with how you act, whereas women are more manipulative with how you emote and how you are emotional in yourself. But I do think that the necessary thing for us to do is to choose peace above validation. And to all those watching, it's until we can learn to choose peace together, I cannot give you my full attention, nor do I think I should. Attention and time is the most valuable thing that we have. So with that being said, peace be with you till next time.